folks, Jason Balazs with OutdoorProductReview.com. Hey, today we're going to be covering a trail camera from Spypoint. Now you guys have seen that I've done the trail cameras from Spypoint before, but this one this year is the HD12. What sets this apart from other trail cameras is, you know, there's one big thing, and that's they have a remote sensor here. Now, this remote sensor, it runs off its own battery, so you take a 9-volt battery and you put it in there, and you could say you set your camera back, you know, 60 yards from a water hole if we're looking for some elk or whatever, and you could set this next to the water hole. So you can have a range from about 50 to 100 feet or so. That's really what I tested it out on this one. Unfortunately, where I put this year was overlooking a little small meadow inside some dark timber. And I set this one up and I put the camera up, you know, sort of back off so I could watch the whole meadow. And you know, it was really sensitive, like the rain would make it go off, Tweety birds or whatever the case was. So I got a lot of video because this does take video, and we'll cover that here in a few seconds. But I took some video, I put it up out here with some deer in my front yard. I mean, you see we got a lot of snow behind me. We have deer every October, November time frame that come through, and they always eat off of these berry trees that we have here. So these big mule deer bucks are in here chasing the does. So I sort of set this up at different angles trying to get some footage of them. And we came up with some great looking deer. But the one thing that's great about this is you can, you know, here's another idea for those of us who are, you know, if you tree stand hunt or whatever, you could put this up in a tree facing down on a trail or something at an angle, set the receiver down on the tree, you know, so remember before, when I had one of these before, they stole the inside of the camera. So you could have the camera up in a tree where it's real safe and then have this little device, the trigger device, set down on the trail, so when something comes through, it'll actually take a picture or video or whatever the case is. So that's a great product they have. They have a directional antenna. You could sort of set it up whichever way. You sort of want it pointing towards the camera itself, although I really didn't see a big difference, but that's what the instructions stated. So you can put this up, has its own little lanyard on here. The only thing I'd like to see on this is some kind of locking capability for this on the tree. If they take this, you're not out of camera, but you know, this is an important little piece of information. You can buy this separately, and you can also buy numerous ones. So you set up a whole area around. So when, let's say you have the camera set in one spot, you can have numerous trigger points to where it'll take it, because there could be a deer passing 50 feet to the left that you'd pick up on the camera if it took a picture of the area, but it didn't trigger the camera itself. So you can have numerous ones of these. And then on the back here it has, like, you set the code so that it's like on the same radio frequency, if you will, with all the, you know, with your camera, because your camera has a little code box in it too. So we'll set this down, but that's a great little invention, something you can put out there and have it trigger your camera. And you know, one thing, I let my father-in-law borrow this because he was having, we own a farm in Iowa, and he was having a problem with people breaking in. So he put the camera up in the tree facing down on the road, and then put the trigger sensor down on a small tree. They never touched the trigger sensor, but we did catch a couple of vehicles driving down the driveway, and you know, most of them weren't there to do any kind of malicious stuff. So you know, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the camera. It's the HD12. It's high definition. It's 12 megapixels. All right, you open up the camera just like the other one. Right, it has it inside. It tells you the range. You know, it can go to 50 feet. You can set it for 25 feet at 30 degrees. The thing is you want to set up the sensitivity in here. So if you have a real sensitive, it'll pick up anything crossing the road or trail or whatever the case is. Opening up the bottom, takes 6 AA batteries. I've had these batteries in here since August. Now, one thing is I've had this camera for a little bit, but I really like to get a look at how the camera performs. Instead of just, you know, get a camera and review it. That doesn't really show you guys something. I want you guys to look at it in depth and say, you know, I've had this thing out there for a while. Right, they have a distance little button here. You turn it up. I turn mine all the time, all the way to max, just because I like it to go out there and get as much as they can. They have a USB here. Let me show you. This whole camera pulls out of your case. So if you had another camera and you could just keep this locked up, because it has a cable lock here on the back, little holes to put a cable through, you can just replace the camera if you need to, or whatever the case. Me, I just take an extra card and I take the card out there and trade it out. But you know, the case just made of plastic. The one thing is I'd like to say is you know, you have to have 2 locks with this if you want to make sure it's secure. You have to have a lock going through the middle part here to hold it closed, and then also the cable lock to the tree. I'd like to see them come up with some kind of way, like some other companies do, where you could take the cable and it runs in there and then it comes over like a groove on the camera so you can't open the camera. But yeah, you need to have another lock, which is what I did for this. We'll set it down, and then your camera, you can turn it on. Here's your on button, and there's a little menu here you go through. You set it up for photo, for video, to test it, the settings, all those things. You can also view your pictures on here. I would recommend though that if you're gonna view them, you either take a laptop with you or something, because it takes a little bit of time to load through here. So that's the way I always like to do it. And from what I've seen is on the video, you can't really watch the video on here or skip ahead. So, you know, with that being said, it's a pretty great little compact light camera. You know, the video that we took on there, and here's one more thing on here, it's really great. Let me show you the case. On the bottom of the case, it has a bunch of rubber places here. And one says for a solar panel, you can plug a solar panel in here. There's a DC where you can plug it into a DC. And then the great thing they have on this one is it has a mic. So you open this up, and on the bottom here, there's a little tube that has a microphone for your video. So when you're taking a video, say if you're out there and you're hunting in Colorado and you want to hear if the elk are bugling, or heck, even if the turkeys are gobbling, this thing will go ahead and record the sound along with the video, which makes it really nice, because you can, you know, there might be a gobbler off to the right or an elk off to the right bugling, and a cow's in the middle. Well, you pick up the cow, and then you hear that bugle on the video. That's something that's pretty cool. Gets the heart pumping. You could set up the video to record from 10 to 90 seconds, and that's recording in HD at 720p. So, you know, you can get some great looking footage out here. And as a matter of fact, at the end of this video, we're gonna finish it up with some recordings from this camera. But, you know, great overall concepts, real compact. It has the date, the time, the temp on there. You can, you know, put his cards. You can go up to a 32 gigabyte card. I think this one has an 8 gig card in it, which is plenty for if you're just taking pictures. But if you want to take a lot of video, you're going to need a bigger card, because they take some memory, that's for sure. It has 46 LED black flash things in there, so when at nighttime it flashes, you don't see the red or whatever, the infrared. It lights up the surrounding area. You know, the only thing I'd have to say on this, and what's something I said on the last one, is that at nighttime, your pictures are quite blurry. Now, when the deer's walking, their antlers, I mean, you could tell it's a buck, and it's a nice buck, and you pretty much count the points, but it's a little bit blurry. So that would be something I'd like to see them, you know, fix if they could. If not, at least it's telling you that the animals are in the area, and that's what we're using, you know, these scouting cameras for. Trying to get license plates in your driveway, if you have it set up in a tree or something, it's really hard to read them unless you got some good software where you can fix the pixelized picture. It has a speaker, so if you want to play the video back, you can hear the sounds that are being made through the speaker. One other thing on this too is you could set this camera up to be a time-lapse camera. So, you know, you take a picture, like I have another camera this year that we use for elk hunting that I put way up on the edge of this meadow, and I had it go in and taking a picture every 1 second, and then I went back and I was like, okay, I used a lot of memory on that, so let me have it take one every 5 or every 10 or 15, whatever the case is. So you could set it up, and even though something doesn't trigger it, you can actually set it to just take a picture automatically. So then you go back and you say, wow, look at that. You know, I actually caught a bear crossing this meadow on my other camera that I would have never seen, a bear and 2 cubs. It was awesome. Saw that, a lot of deer, coyotes, elk, all those type things. The only thing I'd like to see is some kind of way to where you can lock the case without having to get an extra padlock on there. You know, that, in between that and the blurry pictures at night, you know, it's a great camera. I don't see any issues with it except for those things, and it's really not a big issue because the main purpose for having them is to determine what you have in the area. So for Outdoor Product Review, I'm Jason Balazs. We're going to see you guys on our next review, and this film right here is being taken off the Spypoint HD12.